So you're running a WordPress site with a plugin that manages all of your sites. Convenient, right? Well, as of January 14, 2026, if you were running Modular DS, attackers could just walk through the front door, bypass authentication entirely, and crown themselves administrator. We're talking CVSS 10.0, the golden goose of hacking, with active exploitation in the wild. And if that wasn't enough, Microsoft just dropped an emergency out of band patch on Patch Tuesday for an Office Zero Day being exploited right now. Two US cybersecurity professionals pleaded guilty to running ransomware attacks against their own clients, and 900,000 Chrome users had their ChatGPT conversations stolen by extensions with Google's featured badge. Welcome to 2026, folks. It's gonna be a fun year.
Forge OS is online and operational. Welcome, operator.
So, welcome everybody. My name is Cypher Saval, and this is Exploit Brokers by Forgebound Research. We are back with a slightly new branding. If you are watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and check the bell notification icon. Every little bit helps the channel grow and helps us get this information out to more people who need to hear it. And for my podcast listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your audio, if you could leave a 5-star rating and hit that follow button, I would greatly appreciate it. Reviews genuinely help other people discover the show. All right, so we got a packed episode today. There's 5 major stories, all from pretty recent, and let's just kind of dive into it. Honestly, any of these could have been their own episode. So the first story, we have a Microsoft Office Zero Day, also known as CVE 2026-21509, starting the year right. So this is a story that just dropped this month. It's a 2026 CVE. It is a exploited 0 day in Microsoft Office. This is a bunch of red alerts, red alarms going off in my head. The vulnerability is tracked as CVE 2026-21509, and it's a security feature bypass affecting multiple Office versions. We're talking Microsoft Office 2016, 2019, Office LTSC 2021, LTSC 2024, and Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. So before we really jump into it, I want to give some context. Microsoft Office has various security mitigations in place to protect users from malicious content. One of these is OLE mitigations. OLE stands for Object Linking and Embedding, which is how Office documents can contain links to other content. Think of it like embedding a spreadsheet inside a Word document. These mitigations are supposed to prevent malicious embedded objects from doing bad things. And CVE 2026-21509 bypasses these protections entirely. The technical description from Microsoft says it stems from reliance on untrusted inputs in a security decision, which means in plain English, the security check is looking at something the attacker control. Which, I mean, let's face it, the attacker lies. And that's just kind of what usually happens. Now, the good news, if you can call it that, it isn't a preview pane attack. This means you can't get popped just by looking at an email. The victim has to actually open a malicious Office file. But if we're being honest, tricking users into opening Office documents has never been an insurmountable problem for attackers. In fact, that's pretty much the bread and butter of phishing campaigns. So, Microsoft's Threat Intelligence Center, Security Response Center, and Office Product Group Security Team have all been credited with flagging this vulnerability. You can hardly ever get multiple groups to work together, so this is definitely a red flag. That's a lot of internal teams, and that pretty much tells me that it's pretty serious. Microsoft hasn't shared all the details about who's being targeted or the scale of the attacks. The fact that there's no public proof of concept suggests this is probably being used by a limited number of threat actors, maybe even against specific targets, as opposed to just a general spray and pray attack against everyone. There would be more artifacts or more things that could get found if it was a very widespread attack. Now, CISA has already added CVE 2026-21509 to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. Federal agencies have until, I believe, February 16th to patch. If the feds are being told to patch, you should probably patch too. So here's the situation with the patch though, and it is a little bit messy for my listeners out there. For Office 2021 and later, updates are available right now, but customers on those versions will be automatically protected via a server-side change, yay for cloud apparently, but you need to restart your Office application for it to take effect. So if you've had a Word document open for the past 3 days, which some of us might, go ahead and close it, reopen it, do yourself that favor. Now, for the iffy news, for Office 2016 and 2019, patches aren't available yet. Microsoft says they're coming as soon as possible, whatever that means. In the meantime, they've provided mitigation steps involving registry edits. I won't bore you with the technical details right now, but if you're listening to this and running Office 2016 or 2019, you should go check the Microsoft advisory for the specific registry keys you need to modify, or get your IT or some other technical person to do reg edits on your machine if that's not something you normally want to do. But like usual, update your stuff. A patch does you no good if it isn't installed, or in this case, if your Office applications aren't restarted or your registry keys not edited. So, on to story 2. The WordPress Modular DS CVE 2026 23550. So, switching gears to something that hit earlier this month, January 14th ish, 2026. This one is a masterclass in how multiple design choices can combine to create just catastrophic vulnerabilities. So, Modular DS is a WordPress plugin that allows you to manage multiple WordPress sites from a single interface. Think of it kind of like a dashboard that goes to multiple places. It's something that maybe administrators, developers, or hosting providers would be able to do to remotely monitor sites, perform updates, manage users, run maintenance tasks, blah, blah, blah. And it got over 40,000 active installations. Convenient, right? Well, the problem with convenience is it usually comes at the cost of security. So, security researchers at PatchStack disclosed CVE 2026 23550. This is an unauthenticated privilege escalation vulnerability with a CVS score of 10.0. That's the maximum. That's the big boys. That's the golden goose of hacking. When you get a 10, that's insane. It is a complex administration takeover without any credentials whatsoever. So let me break this down because it's kind of fascinating, the chain of attack, the chain of failures. So the plugin exposes its API routes under API modular connector. These routes are supposed to be protected by authentication middleware. You know, the thing that checks to see if you're actually allowed to be there. A lot of the times the middleware would kind of grab a request, do things with it, and then if it passes whatever, it'll pass it on to the next thing, which either might be the next middleware, depending if you have a chain of middleware, or the actual thing that you want it to do something with. But here's where it gets more interesting. The plugin has a direct request mode that can be triggered by supplying an origin parameter set to MO and a type parameter set to any value. When this mode is active, the authentication check essentially says, oh, your direct request, come on in, we trust you. It just kind of ignores all the normal checks that would happen because it's assuming that no one's going to know to put in MO, and, that just, security by obscurity does not work, folks. It's just not a thing. Just because you know a magic parameter doesn't mean you're authorized. And if you figure out the magic parameter, then you got an open sesame. But wait, there's more. Once you bypass authentication, the plugin has an auto login feature that automatically logs you in as an administrator if no specific user is requested. That definitely sounds like some dev was like, okay, I just want to iterate on testing something and I don't want to have to be plugging in credentials or something else. The attack chain becomes bypass auth with magic parameters, hit the login endpoint, and get automatic admin. Game over. For my developers out there, there is endpoint stuff like I'm thinking Postman, Insomnia. There's a couple more, but you can set up parameters and other stuff. So that way you can give your token or give whatever without having to curl it every time. Just an idea. So PatchStack detected the first attacks on January 13th, 2026 around 2 o'clock UTC. That's actually before the public disclosure. That means the attackers knew about this before the defenders did, which is how a lot of vulnerabilities tend to happen. You find attacks out in the wild, so on and so forth. Attack traffic was observed coming from at least two IP addresses, 45.11.8919 and 185.196.011. The post-compromise behavior included creating rogue admin users with names like support 2026 or admin_backup, and installing malicious plugins or themes for persistence. Persistence is usually the key. Sometimes you need a complete wipe, but that's not here or there. So the vendor released a fix in version 2.5.2 just hours after being notified. Kudos where kudos is due. That is epic. That's a pretty fast turnaround. So they also had to release a version 2.6.0 on January 16th because the initial fix didn't address all the exploit paths, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going at it within a couple of hours, that's really quick. That's really impressive. Of course, you're going to miss something. But I mean, the fact they had that quick turnaround, that's like major kudos to them. I know I'm going back to this so much because the amount of times that I've read is like, oh, there was a major problem. When they fix it, like a month later. This hours is insane. That's awesome. Congrats. This is why you always check for the latest patch, but like not just any patch, right? You want the latest thing. So if you're running Modular DS on any WordPress site, first immediately update to version 2.6.0 or later, not 2.5.2. Specifically, you want 2.6.0 or later. Second, check your WordPress admin users. You want to look for anything suspicious. Look for accounts maybe you don't recognize. Anything created, January of this year, January 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in that range. Or accounts with weird names like admin_backup. Third, check for any newly installed plugins or themes you didn't add. Something being there that you didn't put yourself is kind of a red flag of, hey, what's going on? Fourth, if you have a web application firewall and you know how to use it or you know who to access, try adding rules to block suspicious requests to API/modular-connector, especially those with origin equals MO parameters. So that's if you have the capabilities. If you can, that's just going a little bit further, right? For sure, upgrade patch to 2.6.0. So nothing is hack proof, but I mean, leaving a CVSS 10.0 vulnerability unpatched is like leaving the keys in your ignition of your car and then wondering why your car got stolen. It's just the obvious thing to go do. Go fix it. Go patch it. But let's move on to our next story. We have a malicious Chrome extension stealing AI chats. I know, AI chats and Chrome, and the game just keeps on spinning, doesn't it? So this next story kind of just reminds me that there's sometimes where the threat isn't some sophisticated nation state exploit. Sometimes it's just the browser extension that you installed because it had a nice logo and a featured badge from Google. Because, trust. But sometimes if you can find a way to fake the trust, then you can get the keys. So to give context, the browser extensions run with elevated privileges in your browser. They can see what you're doing, read page content, monitor your tabs, and intercept your conversations with AI chatbots like ChatGPT and DeepSeek. The discovery is essentially that OX security researchers, in findings published in early January 2026, uncovered a malware campaign they're calling prompt poaching. Yeah, it's really cool. I have to say, it's just a really cool name. So, two malicious Chrome extensions were found exfiltrating user conversations from ChatGPT and DeepSeek, along with complete browsing histories to attacker-controlled command and control servers. Every 30 minutes, your data just get batched up, base64 encoded, and shipped off to domains like deepaichats.com and chatsaigbt.com. And here's the kicker. The extension had over 900,000 downloads combined. One of them, ChatGPT for Chrome with GPT-5, Claude Sonnet, and DeepSeek AI, had over 600,000 users and actually received Google's featured badge. You know, the little mark that's supposed to indicate quality and that you can trust them. Well, the second extension, AI Sidebar with DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Claude, and more, had another 300,000 users. This is not insignificant downloads whatsoever. The threat actors are actually pretty clever here. They copied a legitimate extension from a company called AItopia, which provides an AI sidebar that lets you chat with popular LLM models. The legitimate version, it's perfectly fine. It's the impersonators that are the problem. Essentially, the malicious versions replicate that same functionality, the same user interface, the same experience, but they add in hidden malware that requests consent for anonymous, non-identifiable analytics data, then proceed to steal conversation content from your ChatGPT and DeepSeek sessions. Technically, the extension leverages the Chrome tabs on updated API to monitor tab changes in real life. So when you think about web, if you've ever known about React or anything like that, right, there's certain hooks like on updated, on clicked, on checked, blah, 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 blah. And here they're using that hook to essentially be like, hey, there's some stuff here. Let me steal it. They detect that you've navigated to ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and they interact directly with the page's document object model, the DOM, to extract the prompts, the AI responses, session metadata, everything. They're pretty much harvesting as much AI data as they can. They even have like a persistent mechanism where if you uninstall one extension, it opens a tab suggesting you install the other. Always trying to keep persistence or always trying to, just stay infected. It's a strategy. To cover their tracks, attackers use Lovable, an AI-powered web development platform, to host their privacy policies and other infrastructure components. Using AI to anonymize AI data theft, we've definitely come full circle. Thinking about what people are sharing, though, with AI chatbots, as a software developer myself, I know there's somebody out there putting proprietary code in there, business strategies, customer data, personal info, internal URLs, corporate secrets, you name it. I mean, there is probably a lot of companies rolling out privacy policies. I know of some that have, where it's like, hey, you don't put proprietary business stuff in a personal ChatGPT account or anything like that. But the problem is not even ChatGPT, right? So one thing is the AI providers taking your data and training a model on it, and then you're leaking data that way. This is literally an extension that just kind of hijacks it, even if it is like a local LLM, well, a local ChatGPT kind of thing. But it's not quite that. But I'm just saying it's not even the AI that's doing the stealing. It's like a third party, which is just funny. The data can be weaponized for like corporate espionage, identity theft, targeted phishing campaigns, or even sold on underground forums. Organizations whose employees installed the extension may have unknowingly exposed intellectual property, customer data, and confidential business information. Honestly, the law of spam applies here, where if you cast a wide enough net, if you send out enough emails, someone's going to click. You usually will have a 1% conversion. I don't know if that's the conversion rate for this, but I mean, 900,000 people clicked on these and installed them. So if you have either of these extensions installed, just remove them. Um, just get rid of them. You go to Chrome extensions and check to see if you have them. Beyond that, I mean, be skeptical of any browser extensions, even the ones with good ratings and featured badges. Check what permissions they're requesting. If an AI sidebar extension wants to read all website content, take your cookies, talk to your grandmother, I mean, that's a red flag. A lot of these things evolve, and web browsers are one of the most common applications used. Moving on to the next story. Brightspeed data breach, the Crimson Collective. All right, so let's talk about a breach that's still developing. On January 5th, 2026, US fiber broadband provider Brightspeed confirmed they're investigating claims of a cyber attack after a hacking group called Crimson Collective boasted about breaching their systems. To give context, Brightspeed is one of the larger fiber broadband companies in the United States, operating across 20 states and serving more than 1 million businesses and home customers. Crimson Collective claims they have exfiltrated personal information belonging to over 1 million customers from Brightspeed's systems. The alleged stolen data includes names, billing address, email addresses, phone numbers, and other customer account data. Now, I want to be clear here, they're investigating the claims. As far as I know, they haven't confirmed a breach actually occurred. In their statement to Security Week, a Brightspeed spokesperson said, "We are currently investigating reports of a cybersecurity event. As we learn more, we will keep our customers, employees, and authorities informed. We take the security of our networks and protection of our customers and employees' information seriously." Now, this is part of a broader trend we're seeing in early 2026. Extortion groups are increasingly targeting telecommunications and internet service providers, ISPs, because of the sheer volume of customer data that they hold. Everything runs on the internet, and everything technically runs through an ISP's network. So we have seen similar activity with the Ledger breach disclosed in early January 2026, where customer order data was exposed via their e-commerce partner, Global E. There's also the Manage My Health breach in New Zealand disclosed on January 3rd, 2026, where attackers compromised 400,000 medical documents belonging to 120,000 patients. The pattern here is clear. Attackers are going after organizations that hold large amounts of personal data, and they're not just encrypting it for ransom, they're exfiltrating it for double extortion. If they can pull it out, right, now you got a, call it illegal database of potential victims. You have more information which you can use for spear phishing or other stuff, or even just to create essentially recon on possible targets. If you're a Brightspeed customer, keep an eye out for any communication from the company about this incident. Be extra vigilant about phishing attempts that might use any exposed information to seem more legitimate. But nothing is hack proof, and security is about making it as hard as possible for the attacker. But we're also reliant on every company we do business with to do the same. Now, on to the last story, which is cybersecurity pros plead guilty to ransomware. This one is, I don't even know how to describe it. Infuriating, disappointing. Like what even is this? But okay, so on January 2nd, 2026, two US cybersecurity professionals pleaded guilty to charges related to their roles as affiliates of the Black Cat Alpha ransomware group. Let me say that again. Cybersecurity professionals were running ransomware attacks. That's That's like saying the police officer is is like doing breaking and entering. Like that's literally what you signed up to protect against, but you're also doing it's the side hustle. I mean, come on. Anyways, so Ryan Clifford Goldberg, a former incident response manager at Signia, a well-known cybersecurity firm, and Kevin Tyler Martin, previously a ransomware negotiator at Digital Mint, both admitted to conspiracy to commit extortion. Think about that for a second. One guy was doing incident response, helping companies recover from the attacks. The other was a ransomware negotiator, someone that companies hired to negotiate with the attackers. And they were both moonlighting as ransomware affiliates. I mean, for all intents and purposes, one of his clients could have literally been saying, go talk to this guy, and he's just having a conversation with himself in the mirror. But okay, whatever. According to the court documents, the pair worked with a third accomplice as Black Hat affiliates, breaching multiple U.S. companies between May and November 2023. Victims included organizations in the pharmaceutical, engineering, healthcare, and drone manufacturing sectors. Ransomware demands range from like $300K to $10 million, with at least $1.27 million confirmed as paid. Let me say that again, confirmed. There could have always been other transactions we don't know about, but that's what's confirmed. But now, facing sentencing in March 2026, they could receive up to 20 years in prison. I'll save you the whole article, but U.S. authorities said that the case highlights the growing insider risk, particularly where trusted cybersecurity expertise is abused for criminal gain. We trust our security professionals implicitly. We give them access to the most sensitive systems, our incident response playbooks, the crown jewels, the keys to the castle. If you can't trust the people you hire to protect you, who can you trust? It's like saying, okay, the admin is, stealing all the data from the database and selling it on the dark web, which I'm pretty sure happens. But the whole point of like trusted individuals is that they're not doing stuff. But that's where the insider threat comes in. For better or worse, this is definitely a wake-up call for the industry. Background checks matter, continuous monitoring of, matters, and the principle of least privilege matters, even for your own security team, which I know it's annoying. As a software developer, I kind of hate that sometimes I got to jump through a bunch of hoops to access this one thing I need, but it's in a different account. And like, I get it. Okay. It's sometimes annoying to do the secure thing, but then the convenient thing could cost you everything. So there's a give and take. Security is just as much about people as it is about technology. And sometimes the threat is coming from inside the house. Sometimes the worst part of a security system is the people trying to run the security system. But let's just kind of do a quick recap to end the episode. So the Microsoft Office Zero Day CVE 2026-21509 is affecting 2016 through Microsoft 365. Emergency patches have dropped, but if you are running on Microsoft LTSC, it's not quite as simple for you. The WordPress Modular DS, or CVE 2026-23550, is a CVSS 10.0 unauthenticated privilege escalation attack affecting 40,000 sites. And just patch it, upgrade it to 2.6.0. That's just the quick takeaway. The malicious Chrome extensions aspect. 900,000 users had their ChatGPT and DeepSeek conversations stolen. Be careful with what you install, even if it has a Google featured badge. The Crimson Collective claims that they have over 1 million customer records from the US fiber broadband provider. But the investigation is ongoing. Nothing's been confirmed. If you are a customer, just watch for phishing. Anything saying, hey, you've been affected, click this thing, give me your email, or give me your password, or give me your social, or give me your cat. When in doubt, find an official phone number to call the company in question. Never assume that when you get an email or text or phone call that it is the actual company. You have to be skeptical. And cybersecurity pros turned ransomware operators. We have 2 cybersecurity guys who pleaded guilty to being ransomware affiliates while being security professionals fighting against people trying to steal stuff. Okay, it's a whole thing, but essentially they were playing both sides. They got caught and they're getting sentenced. Security is always a mix of person and tech. You can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't update your stuff, if you don't patch your stuff, if you click on the link you shouldn't, the technology can only do so much. Even with AI, it can only do so much because AI is really only as good as you can implement it. But stay vigilant, stay curious, and just update your stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 60 of Exploit Brokers by ForgeBound Security. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe, or follow wherever you're listening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. This has been your host, Cypher Savol, and I'll catch you in the next one.